All right, well, let's waste no time now. Let's jump into season 2 of The Bad Batch, right? So we covered the first season. I really did enjoy it, but my concern going in was because I didn't really watch the entirety of, the Clone Wars or Rebels. Well, actually, I only saw the first season of Clone Wars, and I never watched Rebels.
Right.
And the reason, I mean, believe it or not, is I mean, forgive me, but it was just that art style just didn't work for me at all. Ever since I saw it in the Clone Wars feature film, I was like, no, I don't like this sort of wooden,
Yeah.
Pinocchio
Marionette.
style,
Yeah,
marionette
yeah,
kind of style.
yeah.
Yes, no, 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 right? But over the years, I was just hearing about how it was just filling the gaps between the live action film so well now, But unfortunately, I just didn't get around to watching more of the Clone Wars and especially Rebels. I haven't seen any of Rebels, to be honest. I just
Right.
mildly familiar with a character to a show. Like, oh, okay, this character was in this show, all right, and oh,
Right.
there's young Saw Gerrera, all right, cool,
Right.
nice, yeah,
By the
it's
way,
stuff
I
like that.
think I think I think recently a character from Rebels showed up in the new Mandalorian,
Oh,
right?
Mandalorian, yeah, that
Yeah.
episode. I will
Hmm.
lie to you, right? So I was actually kind of binging this show over like about a week or so, right? And while I was wrapping up, this season here, my mind just kept going back to how awesome and kick-ass, oh gosh, that episode of Mandalorian was, way, and it was
Right.
just it was just a crowd-pleasing episode, way. That's what it was. I was cracking up at certain points, right? But when we get to that show, we'll talk about that, right? But matter of fact, as we bring in up Mandalorian, right? So the thing is with this show is that, all right. So to be honest, I know there's a lot of people who kind of tired of the Star Wars TV shows. They're just kind of tired of the Star Wars media. You know what I mean? It's Mandalorian, it's Boba Fett, it's what it was, Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? So I know there's a lot of people who more or less kind of turn their back on the franchise. They just sort of fed up with it. They just think it's just kind of spinning its wheels, right?
Right.
So it would make sense for people to just say, Bad Batch, I don't really care, right? But the first season I thought was pretty decent for what it was. I wasn't blown away by it. I wasn't in love with it, right? But I just love that idea of these, misfit, clone troopers. So you're getting sort of like a dirty dozen kind of thing, but it's
Yeah.
just with these, just this batch of disposable, expendable, clone soldiers, man. That's really what it was, right? And yeah, it just made for some really entertaining stories and whatnot. And I just love how it was just able to fill that gap between episode 3 and 4. You know what I mean? So that really worked for me. And over time, I got used to the animation style, right? I still kind of make the joke even when I was watching the season here. It kind of feels like cut scenes from a video game. This
Right.
is why why the faces look kind of weird, how they move a certain way. The backgrounds look immaculate in my opinion compared to the characters and whatnot. So now we're here with season 2 of the Bad Batch, right? And I did not really recap, the first season in preparation for this, but it really doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Because it's easy for you if you saw the first season to pick up on what happened, right? So yeah, me, we were just introduced to the usual gang. That would be Hunter. We have Tech. We have Wrecker. We have Echo. We had Crosshair, but Crosshair went rogue in the
Right.
last season, so he's not with them anymore, right? Um, and they're still working in quotes with Sid, who is voiced by Rhea Perlman, right? She's this shady, alien who works in this bar, and she just has all these like ulterior motives, basically, right? But she kind of hires them as mercenaries to do odd jobs for them, for her, basically, right? And of course, there's Omega, that is the this young girl who is also a clone, and she is the just reading it off of Wikipedia here. She is an unmodified replication of Jango Fett, right?
Right.
But yeah, she's basically the heart of the whole crew because everybody around her is just soldiers, rough and tough, and they just do a job, blah blah blah, right? But her is just bringing for lack of a better term, humanity to the group, so they really learn about themselves and about the world around them, and their existence, right? And at the heart of it all, that's really what this season zeroes in a lot on, just the mere fact that, yeah, these clones are pretty much going to be wiped out very soon, right? And that's like long after the Order 66 thing happened, right? Because that was really where the whole story began, right? With that premiere episode when Order 66 was executed, right? But yeah, this season here pretty much focuses on it's pretty much the beginning of the end of the clones, right? Because they're going to be replaced very soon by stormtroopers.
Right.
The Empire themselves are just like, all right, well, we still have these clones. They basically, yeah, and I love how the show does this, right? They're basically employees. It's just like, yo, like if you just let us go, what are we gonna do? You know what I mean? You're gonna at least pay us or something like that, right? And it's remember, I mean, the Empire is a bunch of dicks there, right? So it's just like, well, right? Yeah, we have a new character, a new villain by the name of Dr. Hemlock, right?
Right.
And his plan basically is to help, in the process of like just designing or just coming up with these ideas for like, the stormtroopers going forward, right? But to do so, he is using, these clones as guinea pigs basically for his nefarious experiments, right? And well, Crosshair unfortunately ends up getting roped into that, right? In addition to that, Echo leaves because he feels like he has to he's much better he's much better doing work on the field itself, right? And that is essentially to free the other clones who may end up being guinea pigs under Dr. Hemlock's under his supervision basically, right? So it's like that, right? But throughout the season, they go through and they go through on various missions, some of which involve Sid, others involve another character who's voiced by Wanda Sykes.
Okay.
Yeah, she's in this as well too, right? But all the while though, and this is one thing I love about the show here, just to jump into the review here, is that even with the missions and the adventures and stuff like that, there's always like these few episodes that will come and remind you just how serious this war is, right? And just going back to what I said before about people more or less kind of tuning the show out because of how fed up they were with Star Wars output over the past couple of years. I have to give credit to this show here for saying, look, like we still in this universe, like we're gonna make sure that you care, or at least you understand why the show exists now. And yeah, for the most part, it works, right? So just to get the good out of the way. Animation, what I mean? Like I would say, the character design is still an acquired taste, but it works, given what the show is, right? And this, mainly because it's coming right after, Rebels and the oh gosh, and the Clone Wars now. So it makes sense that the animation style is what it is, right? Also really really dug like the set design, right? Just the overall production really looks solid, right? It's very reminiscent of what you see in both the TV and the film stuff, right? And I talking about like backgrounds and sets basically, right? The music is still fine, it's done by Kevin Kiner, paying a lot of homages to John Williams' scores and whatnot, right? So he does a great job there. But really where the show shines though is the voice acting, but like throughout though, I've always loved the voice acting in this series. And yeah, I mean this season just stepped things up even more, man. Whether it's the Bradley Baker who pretty much voices everybody in the Bad Batch except for Omega. Michelle Ang who voices Omega as well too. She just uses that authentic New Zealand accent of hers to some great effect here. So yeah, you're getting Tick and Ricker and stuff like that now. But there's a charm to it now,
ridiculous New Zealand accent now.
I know, but it grows on it. It grows. I remember in the first couple episodes, like really, that's what they're going for. But nah, it grows on you, and it's really really charming actually, right? Even like Wanda Sykes and all too, who plays Fee. That's the new character. She's a pirate, right? Yeah, she and all does a great job, behind the mic and whatnot, right? But I would say as far as just great voice acting for this season here, boy, I have to give it to Jimmy Simpson who plays Dr. Hemlock.
Right.
Yeah, like he is just that low voice, like he just says things almost kind of like not so much whispery, but he's not trying to draw too much attention, so he's talking low now. But he's just so intimidating with the way how he talks, man. And it's literally like whenever he comes on stage and his character comes on stage, right? It's as if you're watching a live action Star Wars show. It's that great, dude, just the voice acting from him. and you really buy into this guy just being this shady, snarky, Doctor Who just has all these, delusions of grandeur in terms of the empire and stuff like that, right? And speaking of that, though, yeah, I would say this season also to reminded me a great deal about Andor. Just the idea of
Right.
it's an empire. The empire say you have to do this, but you have people saying, you know what, yeah, this really make any sense? And look at how cruel they act in this. So I like that you get that, right? It's not just the empire is bad because it's a cartoon. You know what I mean? You get layers to it as well, right? And speaking of cartoon too, one thing I really have to give praise for this show here too is just remind you all that this ain't no kids show at all. Like this is, I believe it's TVPG. It's TVPG for a reason, not so much of the violence, right, but just more of the content itself and how I would say dense by cartoon standards it is, right? In terms of
Right.
characterization, in terms of what they're fighting for, all those things. It totally works, right? You really see it in the character of Crosshair, because at first you're like, all right, Crosshair, you turn your back on your brethren, blah blah blah, but no, he has his own reasons why. And then there's actually
Right.
a particular episode later on, which is called, let me get the name of it quickly. Yeah, episode 12, The Outposts, right? Yeah, that actually is one of my favorite episode in this whole season, boy, because of just it was just about Crosshair and just basically him being assigned to this outpost
Right.
where the Empire just pretty much threw all these clones to just to fight now. And yeah, majority of them just get washed out, and the Empire just don't even care, right? And you have a few of them who just like, yeah, the Empire don't care about us and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not gonna say where that story goes by, but you really get some solid characterization from Crosshair, but you really genuinely feel sorry for the guy, even though if you remember from the first season, he was just like the most untrustworthy out of everybody in that group, right? But yeah, the characterization work, the storytelling actually works. I actually felt that this was a step up from what we got in last season here. And I would say just a couple things before I get to rating here. I would say there's a few episodes that don't really involve all of the Bad Batch members themselves, right? Those episodes really stood out to me. Those were the ones that really felt like the material was just being elevated to that live action status, right? So the stuff that you might see in an episode like, say, Mandalorian. I don't know if you remember, I think it was a couple episodes ago where there was this side story, and it was basically about how bad the Empire was, if you remember. It
That's
was
which
with
one?
oh gosh, the scientist guy
All
who
right.
wants
Right.
to
Right. The
do the stuff.
season. Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
which
Okay.
we'll talk
Yeah.
about when we get to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Review.
That's actually one of probably my favorite episodes so far. Actually.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, but it's just how deep they went into that, though, and especially
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
it ends. Very Brazil-like. That's all I'll say.
Right.
Yeah, that
Right. Right.
totally works, right? But yeah, they went they went far enough in terms of the storytelling, just really showing how bad the Empire was. But at the same time, it's not just about how bad they are, but really at the end of the day, it's just again the beginning of the end of this clone army, right? We really don't know. I'm not versed in all things Star Wars, so I don't remember. Like somebody had to quote me some game or some book or something to tell me what happened to all the clones, right? But I don't think they were all wiped out or whatever. But at least you
Well,
have,
I mean,
yeah, at least you have the show here
I
to
think even
pretty
in the
much show
time.
what happened.
Well, I think even in the time of oh boy, which
Four.
time we see?
No, remember this is between 3 and 4, like
I know,
right
but I
after
think
3.
yeah, no, I say yeah, but I can't remember how much time. But you see a good bit of time where you see clones still alive, like well within. I think this show we call it Rebels. I think Rebels is around the time of 4, right before 4.
Okay.
And then we saw one in Obi-Wan, and that was like supposed to be 10 years after. So I don't know.
Right. You're
Yeah,
right. You're true. Yeah. You're
yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I had to remember these things. I'm sorry. I'm not versed in all things Star Wars, right? But yeah, I just love the idea that yes, these guys are really, it's not just the expendable because they're soldiers, but because they're clones, right? You know what I mean? And without spoiling anything, you really, really see, just that whole beginning of the end aspect really come into full display here in this season. I'm not gonna say where, but yeah, don't think that just because it's that cartoon that everybody just gonna walk away and be happy, right? Not in the show, right? And it actually ends on a cliffhanger, so we will be getting a season 3 very soon. I have a feeling it might be in the next couple of years, but yeah, where this stop off, I'm pretty intrigued. Not so much excited, but really intrigued, right? So I'll close with this, right? like the first season, this is solid in terms of just the storytelling and of course the action and sound design and all that kind of stuff. It works, right? It's a Star Wars show. They do BS when it comes to the technical stuff, right? But the story stuff absolutely works here, right? You get that balance of, okay, we're gonna do the missions and all that kind of stuff, but they also tell this really gripping story of, yeah, again, just these clones just being disposed and just more or less just being wiped out for reasons, you know what I mean? And that is really compelling to me, right? And yeah, where this shows, where the season stops off, I'm like really intrigued, right? Not excited. This reason being is that there's a particular reveal. I'm not gonna say what it is, but just kind of here they're like, okay, that's how they end it. All right, you know what I mean? But I guess if I was like a real Star Wars nerd, I would have been like losing my shit, right? But it just didn't happen with me, right? It didn't
Right.
happen with me, right? But yeah, overall, this is another really decent season. So rating wise, I'm gonna give this a lighter, decent 4 out of 5. Um, if you've if you're pretty much done with Star Wars, this show will do nothing for you. But if you just kind of was hoping that, oh, you know what I mean, like the subsequent shows to come out after stuff like Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi, like I
Right.
would say, like if you were just hoping that they would be balancing the force, then there would be a reason to watch, to be excited for a Star Wars show again. Yeah, this is one of those shows right here, man. While it's not as highly publicized as say a Mandalorian, there's a lot of good in here, man. You know what I mean? And
Right.
yeah, I mean it just makes for great viewing here, right? But again, it's one of those shows that if you just don't care about Star Wars anymore, you just got you just felt like just the post episode 9 stuff just didn't do it for you. Yeah, this show wouldn't do anything for you. But it stays true to the source material. You could tell that they're doing it justice and just really fleshing out this world, as well as it can, man. And yeah, it's just just maintaining that high quality that you would come to expect from a Star Wars TV show anyway, right? So
Right.
yeah, if you're a fan of the first season, definitely give this one a watch. Again, if you don't care, you could skip it, but it's good stuff. It's really good stuff, and you should really check it out, man.
Thank you.